What has happened to me in the past few days has been dreadful and awful. I thought everything would be fine, but one small decision from my husband has left me caught in the middle of a family war, full of tension and chaos. This time, it's not just light arguments anymore. I was forced to make the final choice, a choice I never thought I would have to face. And just when you think you've seen enough stress, the truth turns out to be much worse. We live just 3 blocks away from my parents, so the kids see their grandparents almost every day. But things are different with my in-laws. They live in another state, a few hours' drive away, and they only visit us a few times a year. These visits are always a big deal, not just for the kids, but for both me and my husband. Every time they come, I know I'm going to face a whole set of issues. And even though I'm used to the differences in how my husband and I raise our children compared to his parents, I still can't get used to the feeling. It's like all the rules I've set in place at home suddenly become soft suggestions. My husband, Jack, is someone who doesn't like to confront anyone, especially his parents. They love spending time with the kids, and I get that, but I can't stand how easily they disrupt our routine. One example was just last week, when Jack's parents came to visit. After dinner, while I was clearing the table, they started talking about taking the kids to see a movie on a school night. I glanced at the clock, knowing the kids would need to be up early for school the next day. "No, that's not a good idea," I protested, but my in-laws just smiled. "They're just kids. One night won't hurt. Why can't they have a little fun?" I get it, I really do. But I also know that once we break their routine, everything falls apart. I reminded them again that the kids had school the next day, but Jack didn't say anything. He just nodded and agreed with his parents. I was so frustrated I couldn't say anything else. It felt like all the rules I've worked so hard to establish over the years were being ignored, and I was the bad guy for trying to maintain some order. The next morning, just as I feared, the kids were exhausted and distracted while getting ready for school. Worse, they had barely touched their homework because they were still caught up in the movie they'd seen the night before. I felt like a ticking time bomb as I saw the tired look in their eyes, realizing that I was the one who would end up dealing with the fallout. "Jack, I told you, messing up their schedule has consequences," I said, trying to keep my calm. But he just shrugged it off. "Don't worry so much, they just need a little break." I decided I couldn't let this go any longer. I couldn't keep letting this happen. I had to do something to protect the routine I've built for our kids. And so, I made a decision I never thought I'd have to make. After I made that decision that morning, I knew I had gone too far. But I couldn't stay silent as everything got more and more out of control. What had happened in the past few days wasn't just exhausting. It made me feel like I was slowly losing control. I'm not someone who likes conflict, but I also couldn't sit by while I watched my kids be affected by the disruption in their routine, especially when I had warned everyone beforehand. When I looked into their eyes, I saw confusion, fatigue, and uncertainty. How could I continue letting this happen when I'm the one responsible for them every day? I decided to take the kids to my parents' house the night before. I couldn't let them continue living in chaos with their school schedules disrupted, with late nights watching movies or games while no one cared about homework. My parents could help me. They would stick to the rules I had worked so hard to establish. But when I came back home, I knew I was facing an even bigger battle. Jack still didn't understand the gravity of the situation. He just thought I was being too strict and not letting the kids have any fun. But I knew if I didn't do something now, everything would get worse. That night, while I sat at my parents' house, I got the first call from Jack. He sounded frustrated. "Are you really going to do this? I need you to help out. My parents are here only a few times a year, and you're acting like we can't spend time with them." I felt a wave of anger rise inside me. I couldn't understand why he didn't see the problem. "Jack, I already told you, the kids have things to do. They need to do their homework. They need to have a reasonable bedtime so they can wake up early for school. That's our responsibility." I couldn't express all the disappointment I felt, knowing that he wasn't standing by me, that he wasn't trying to understand my point. The next call came not long after, and this time I knew he was completely confused. He called me to come home and see the state of the house. "Don't you see? The place is a mess, the kids haven't done their homework, and your parents are just sitting there doing nothing. Are you really going to leave all this behind?" At that moment, I felt like I was standing at a crossroads, unable to turn back, but also unable to move forward without paying a price. How many times had I done everything on my own, keeping everything in line, worrying about every little detail in our kids' lives, while Jack always took the easy way out, avoiding conflict? I was tired of it, tired of feeling abandoned in the parenting process. "I'm not the only one making decisions about the kids, Jack," I said, my voice firmer than ever. "You can do something or you let me handle it all on my own." But he didn't respond right away. I could feel the silence from the other side of the call, and I knew that, no matter what I said, we weren't going to find an easy solution. The tension had reached its peak, and I felt like I was stuck between two choices. One side was my in-laws, and the other side was what I believed was right. The next day, when I woke up, I realized that I had entered a battle from which there was no turning back. I had made a decision, not just to protect my kids, but also to protect what I had built over all these years. But when I realized I was facing Jack's silence, it made me feel like I was alone in this fight. I couldn't sit around waiting anymore. After breakfast, I decided not to go back home but to stay at my parents' house. At this point, I knew I had to do something to resolve everything. I couldn't let things slip further out of my control. While I loved my in-laws, I couldn't keep being the one who endured and compromised. Every day I got messages and calls from Jack. He kept trying to convince me to come back, saying that I was taking things too far. "Are you really going to do this? I need you at home. I can't keep working like this. You need to face the truth," he'd say, but I could only shake my head as I read those texts. His words felt like stones being thrown at me, each one making me feel even more exhausted, like I was standing at the edge of a cliff. But when I looked at my kids' faces, I knew I had done the right thing. They were having a peaceful time, without pressure, without late nights filled with homework. While I understood that they needed balance, I also knew that without discipline, they would lose their way. And that hurt me more than anything. I began to question if I was being too harsh. Was I preventing them from having fun? But then I realized that I couldn't do otherwise. Without rules, they wouldn't learn responsibility, and I couldn't just let them enjoy themselves without consequences. By the afternoon, Jack called again. He sounded tired but still persuasive. "I don't want us to stay like this. Can you forgive me? I don't want to cause more trouble. We need to decide on this together." I felt a wave of emotions crash through me. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe we could work through this together, but reality wasn't as simple as that. "You can't just sit back and let everything slide, Jack. You can't let me do everything and then blame me," I replied, my voice firm. The conversations kept going, and I felt like every time Jack called, I was being pulled deeper into an emotional quicksand that I couldn't escape from. But one thing I realized was this: I couldn't keep living in this ambiguity. If we didn't resolve this conflict, I wouldn't be able to continue with the family life I so desperately wanted. I looked at my kids, feeling a sense of helplessness. I couldn't let them endure something unjust. And at that moment, I made a decision once again. I couldn't go back. When I decided not to return home, I knew I had taken a path that couldn't be easily undone. I told Jack I would stay at my parents' house until his parents left. But as I looked into my kids' eyes, I realized that my decision wasn't just affecting me and Jack. It was affecting the innocent children in front of me. The following days, the atmosphere in my home seemed heavier than ever. Every morning, I would drop the kids off at school, trying my best to keep them stable, while Jack's constant calls kept coming in. He called me nonstop, sending texts, but I just couldn't take another call. I didn't know if I was being too harsh, but I felt hurt because his words made it seem like I was the one in the wrong, when all I was trying to do was the right thing for our kids. One afternoon, as I was preparing dinner with the kids at my parents' house, my phone rang again. This time, it was Jack, and he could no longer hold back his frustration. "You can't keep doing this. Do you even know what you're doing? I can't handle this anymore, and neither can the kids." His voice was full of anger. His words hit me like a slap to the face. I understood he was feeling stressed and helpless, but the disappointment in his voice made me feel even worse. "What are you doing, Jack? Why can't you just stand by me? I can't do everything on my own." I couldn't stay calm any longer. All the emotions I'd been bottling up for days came rushing out. "Don't you understand? I'm just trying to do what's best for the kids." Jack was silent for a moment, like he was trying to find the right words to say. "Can't you just let the kids have a little fun with the family? We only have them here a few times a year." His tone softened slightly, but I'd heard that excuse too many times, and this time it didn't mean anything to me anymore. "This isn't about fun, Jack. This is about responsibility, about teaching the kids discipline and self-control," I replied, my voice steady but firm. "Do you think I'm being too hard on them? I can't let them become kids without responsibility, without limits." The tension kept building, and I knew we couldn't go on like this. Eventually, Jack admitted he didn't know what to do anymore. "I can't just keep watching you do everything, but I don't know what to do to keep everything from falling apart." In the following days, as Jack's parents prepared to leave, I knew we had to have an important conversation. Could I go back, or would I stand firm on my decision and protect what I believed was right? Every step I took now felt crucial, and I couldn't help but think about our future, about our family. Finally, my in-laws left, and the silence between Jack and me showed no signs of ending. The tension between us had grown worse each day, and I felt like I was standing between two choices that couldn't be reconciled. I couldn't continue living in this chaos, but I also couldn't go back, as if nothing had happened. The next morning, Jack called again. His voice was dry, as if he was exhausted. "Can you come home? I can't keep going like this. Everything is getting worse. The kids are having trouble, and I can't do everything on my own." I felt a conflict rising within me. I wanted to go back. I wanted to reconcile and return to the peaceful life we had before, but part of me still felt angry. The feeling of being abandoned, of having to do everything myself, still lingered. "I can't keep doing this, Jack," I replied, my voice now firmer. "I can't be the only one holding everything together and then be blamed when things go wrong. You need to do something." At that point, I couldn't avoid the feeling of helplessness. We had reached a point where words alone couldn't resolve anything. Now it was about responsibility, the choices I had made, and the things I believed were right for the kids. But when I looked at the kids, I knew I couldn't let them grow up without clarity, without being taught discipline and self-control. They were starting to feel the changes in the family atmosphere. They could sense the tension between us. I couldn't let them live in this chaos. "You need to do something, Jack," I said firmly. "You can't just let me do everything and then blame me for not having time for the family." I realized this wasn't just a petty argument anymore. It was a major issue, a confrontation that I couldn't avoid. That day, when Jack came home, I had already decided that we needed to have a serious talk. Everything I had endured, everything I had sacrificed for this family, couldn't continue without change. I couldn't just ignore the principles I had set because of a few people's comfort. Finally, when he came home, we sat down together. There were no gentle words, no more avoidance. We had to face each other, face the real issues of our family, and I knew that the next decision we made would change everything.